Latest now to help us understand the impact of all of this. Let's bring in Joel Rubin, former Deputy Assistant Secretary of State and President of the Washington Strategy Group, and John Sitilides, geopolitical strategist at Trilogy Advisors. Joel, I'll start with you. What are you reading into this incident, and what are the chances that Iran will not retaliate it and treat it as some sort of an American retaliation for the American drone that was downed about 3 weeks ago?
Yeah, Tal, it's a great question, and it clearly is something that should come up in the minds of the Iranians about whether or not this was the retaliation. I don't think it was, though, and I think we need to be very careful about guessing as to why the Navy decided at this point they need to shoot it down. But the bigger picture is that there are no guardrails right now on the U.S.-Iran relationship. It's a tinderbox. Anything can happen, and incidents can happen like this, but they could be much worse. And so the failure to have communication, to have a line directly to Tehran, to be able to avoid a major military conflict, that doesn't exist. And it's a real danger to us because we are not seeing any progress on the actual substance of what the president wants to achieve with Iran, which is a better nuclear deal, as he says, and other issues. We're going in the opposite direction.
John, to you now, was this Iran's way of kind of testing the waters here, maybe pushing the envelope and seeing how close they could get to the U.S. in the region?
I think it's definitely part of a larger Iranian testing campaign. And like Joel and like Dan, I don't really know that this was a specific retaliatory action by the United States. We're not looking for reasons to shoot down anything Iranian. We're looking to conduct freedom of navigation operations in international waters, as is our right and the right of every nation around the world. And it's especially important for oil exports from the Middle East, for Asia and for Europe, and for global commerce worldwide. And so the United States Navy, it's literally minding its own business in the region, and the Iranians are sending a drone in to within 1,000 yards, threatening the ship, threatening the crew, and any president would have undertaken this action, and it was the right thing to do. Ideally, the Iranians will stop blowing up pipelines, stop boarding tankers, stop shooting down drones, and behaving like a normal country in the Persian Gulf.
Now, Joel, despite the clear tensions in the Persian Gulf and this latest escalation, the Iranian Foreign Minister, Mohammad Javad Zarif, was in the United States this week, and it seems that Iran maybe is changing its policy towards potential future talks with the United States. Well, right now it doesn't sound like the U.S. could meet the Iranian conditions, like stop selling arms to Saudi Arabia and the United Arab Emirates or lifting all sanctions, but is it some progress?
Yeah, I mean, the construct here is that the United States, we essentially demanded that Iran changed the entire structure of its foreign policy to get a deal with the United States. 12 conditions is what they're known as by Secretary Pompeo. And so we have taken away the nuclear deal. We've pulled out of that, but we're expecting Iran to abide by it. We're asking them to change their entire foreign policy. Now Iran is doing the same. They're doing strikes, as John mentioned. They're harassing ships. They're doing other kinds of activities. They're demanding higher levels of concessions from the United States. This policy's gone backwards a decade now. And so the progress we made on diplomacy, while not perfect, was building. Now we're backwards. And it doesn't look like we have any structure in place to get a negotiation to actually resolve these points of contention. And that's the real concern. When there's no structure, there's no diplomacy, there's just demands and fiat, and not much is going to move in the right way if that's the approach.
John, very quickly to you, between the tanker that Iran has now admitted that it had seized to this incident with the drone now, how much does this raise fears of what could be an exchange of fire in the region? And how much at risk is the Strait of Hormuz?
Well, the Strait of Hormuz, unfortunately, is very much at risk, but it's almost entirely because of Iranian activity in the region. I don't foresee any desire for an exchange of fire or any type of hostilities. Again, the U.S. is protecting freedom of navigation rights in international waters, but the Iranians are desperate. They are suffering under maximum crippling sanctions by the United States. The theocracy is trying to find a way out of this situation where the economy is crumbling, there's social unrest in the country, and they're increasingly isolated in the Middle East and on the international stage.
John Sitilides, Joel Rubin, thank you both.